It's a Top 10 Tuesday, and after receiving hundreds of requests, I'm finally going to share my top 10 favorite comedies of all time. Hi, my name is Sean, and I love to talk about movies way too much. With that in mind, go ahead and join me down below in the comment section. Share your top 10 favorite comedies of all time. My list isn't supposed to be the best comedies of all time. It's just my list of my favorite comedies of all time, and I would love to see yours. One more thing before we get started. This video is brought to you by Patreon. Every month, I ask my supporters over on Patreon to suggest a video, and this is the one that they picked. If you're a fan of the channel and want even more content, join at any level and you unlock all the exclusives. In just the month of July, I had 8 different exclusive videos plus 2 different exclusive live streams. Normally, there would have been even more live streams, but I was out sick for a little bit. So if you're interested in joining over on Patreon or checking it out to see if it's right for you, check out the link down below in the description, and let's get started. Kicking things off at number 10 is 10 Things I Hate About You. This is my personal favorite high school comedy. It's a modernization of William Shakespeare's The Taming of the Shrew, contextualized to a late 90s high school. I was in high school in the late 90s, so this one just kind of speaks my language. You've got the 2 leads in it are Heath Ledger and Julia Stiles, and you just see all of their kind of star-making performance, charisma, very early on in their careers, and they're just a lot of fun to watch. Then you also have a young Joseph Gordon-Levitt thrown into the mix, and also has a phenomenal kind of soundtrack that my sister and I absolutely did own and listen to all of the time. Actually, my sister probably owned it, and I just took her copy of it. But it's just a comedy that kind of speaks to that stage of life for me, and so it's very nostalgic for me. It came out just a couple of months before Phantom Menace, so I even remember seeing this movie for the sake of hoping to see the Phantom Menace trailer, and just reminds me of a fun time in life. Number 9, Mrs. Doubtfire. If 10 Things I Hate About You reminded me of some positive nostalgia, Mrs. Doubtfire is kind of the opposite. The main plot line involves kind of the lead character going through a divorce, and the movie came out right as my parents were getting divorced. It was even one of the first movies we went to go see after that was officially decided, so probably shouldn't be smiling about all of that. But in general, this is just a classic Robin Williams comedy that just let him go wild and use all of kind of his bag of tricks. Even his character is a voice artist, and so he just is just letting him tee off with all his chaotic energy, giving him the Mrs. Doubtfire character to play, and creating all of these wild, crazy scenarios to go along with it. But at the core of the story, it is this very personal story about a family that falls apart and a father going to extreme lengths to get to spend time with his kids. So it has a lot of emotion inside of it. So it can go from him making you smile to him making you cry almost at a heartbeat because of the nature of the story. And in the case of me, because it was so tied to stuff going on in my own personal life at the time, it always will have kind of that special place for me. Number 8, The Jerk. Steve Martin's star-making performance when he went from a world-famous stand-up comedian to a movie star, and this is as funny to me as he has ever been. It is insane. It's bonkers. It's basically just a string of excuses for these ridiculous scenarios of stupidity, and all of it makes me laugh every single time. So much of it is because it's designed to be inappropriate, it's designed to be over the top, and it just goes from like quotable sequence to memorable sequence. There's so many things in this movie that are just part of the vernacular of my family, where I'll just be like, he hates these cans. Or all I need is this. And there's so many fantastic moments in it that Every time I watch this movie, it just makes me laugh out loud, and this movie is the one that made me just fall in love with Steve Martin as an actor. Next up is Talladega Nights, the Ballad of Ricky Bobby. Now, during the first 10 years of this century, Will Ferrell and Adam McKay teamed up a bunch of times. Some people go with Anchorman, others go with Step Brothers, then you also got the other guys thrown in the mix. My favorite of the bunch is Talladega Nights, but honestly, I could have gone with any of these 4 movies. I think they're all really funny. They're all excellently cast, where of course Will Ferrell's great in the lead, but the supporting cast on all 4 of these movies is just fantastic.
I am so paralyzed!
Don't you stick that knife in your leg.
I think the sports race car plotline of this film just gives it a structure that to hang the jokes on a little bit better for me, and to also have just a little bit of an undercurrent of emotion inside of it, where you've got this guy with daddy issues, he has failures, he has a comeback. It has kind of all the different elements in it, while having all the ridiculous shenanigans that you want from a Will Ferrell, Adam McKay comedy.
Dear Lord, baby Jesus, I want to thank you for my family.
That makes me laugh out loud. I think this is the one that might have the most quotes that I say, either this one or Step Brothers. But once again, there's kind of 4 movies there that I was picking from that I knew one of them was going to make it on the list. Pretty positive Talladega Nights is my favorite of the batch. Number 6, Dumb and Dumber. Ace Ventura came out when I was in the 6th grade, and it led to Jim Carrey's meteoric rise to superstardom, which for me peaked with Dumb and Dumber, but he of course had many fantastic films I absolutely love after that. But the one that's always stood out to me, the one that I still go back to the most, is Dumb and Dumber, and I was like the perfect age for when it came out, being in middle school. That I was just old enough that my mom would let me see this movie and experience all the crass inappropriateness that I absolutely loved, and to this day makes me laugh out loud.
Want to hear the most annoying sound in the world?
And of course, the reason it works is that he's perfectly paired with Jeff Daniels, who isn't necessarily known for this type of work. And so when you partner him with Jim Carrey, who's the master of this kind of stuff, just amazing chemistry, and they're able to play off each other so well, leading to just iconic scene after iconic scene, memorable joke, laugh out loud moment from beginning to end. This is one of these movies that if I'm together with my friends, if we're from back in the day, you put this one all on, we're all going to be laughing out loud and quoting along the whole time. In 5th place is Bridesmaids. When this movie first came out, of course it was a big hit, and it was sort of written off by some as the Hangover for women, but with about 10 years removed from each of those films coming out, I feel like this one has stood the test of time better. A lot of that comes back to the fact that there's just a great set of characters and a whole bunch of star-making performances in this film. And it's Kristen Wiig is this character that's just deeply insecure and broken, that has all the charm to make her likable while she's perpetually making really bad choices throughout the film. But she does all of this in a way that's so relatable, that we've all had these down phases where we're in a funk and we just can't get out of it. And this is a movie that's her journey of how she breaks through all of that. That just happens to also be really funny. And it's, of Paul Feig's movies, this is the one that's jam-packed with the most memorable little bits. Whether you're talking about the sequence where they're trying on the dresses, the plane sequence.
I'm ready to party! Oh, yeah.
Absolutely love Chris O'Dowd in this film. Pretty surprised that he hasn't had more prominent roles in films after, because he's just so likable in this film. But that's really the case with this whole movie, where everybody just does such a good job. If they're supposed to be a jerk, if they're supposed to be charming, if they're supposed to be broken, they all do it so well, but in a way that makes them enjoyable on screen. And it just comes together. And then we have Galaxy Quest, basically a perfect movie because it is a laugh out loud comedy. It's also just a great Star Trek film, and all of this works because it's a movie that's both a love letter of Star Trek as well as a spoof of Star Trek, while also being a love letter to the fandom while having a fun with the fandom. And the reason all this works is because they seem to really understand Star Trek and the fandom and the relationship between the two of them, as well as the cast's relationship to the TV show. It understands the target audience for the film and designs a film for them while also just working for a broad audience as this comedy about these actors that get swept away on this adventure, big space adventure. It works as every single one of these things. Space adventure works. Comedy works. Movie for the fans, about the fans. It works. And it ties it all together wonderfully. I saw this movie in the theater when it first came out as someone that grew up watching Star Trek movies and going to Star Trek conventions all throughout the 90s. I was the target audience. Me and my sister, we were there watching this movie. Then when I got married, I showed it to my wife. She had never watched Star Trek growing up. She'd never been to a Star Trek convention, and she loved it too. That's when you know it. You have a film that just absolutely connects with people while being very niche and broad at the exact same time. That's when you have a fantastic comedy. Real quick before I give you my top 3, over on my Patreon page, I have a companion video to this with 10 more of my favorite comedies that I'm going to elaborate on, as well as in that video, I'll show kind of the 50 movies that I compiled while trying to decide my top 10 and then my top 20. Join at any level and you can unlock that video as well as a whole bunch of other exclusives. In third place is Groundhog Day, Bill Murray and Harold Ramis's time loop comedy magnum opus. This is the time loop film that all time loop films are compared to. Even as of a couple weeks ago when Palm Springs came out, it was immediately compared to Groundhog Day, and the movie itself references Groundhog Day because it is just such an iconic film of the genre because it nailed it. It's the perfect time loop comedy. So much of that goes back to just Bill Murray perfectly playing this likable, total douchebag that mistreats everybody and gets stuck in this day where every single thing drives him insane and batty, and he has to just keep living it over and over.
Phil? Ned Ryerson, I did the whistling belly button trick at the high school talent show.
And it finds all of the ways to maximize the comedic potential of this, whether it's kind of showing all the selfish things that he would do, all of the ways in which he would try and end the loop, and so it can go into the despair and kind of explore this, as well as showing all the ways that he would try and break it, take advantage of it, while also having this character arc for his character as he learns throughout a very long period of time to surrender his selfishness and actually care about other people. And a big part of why the movie works is that it's not concerned at all with explaining what's going on. It's just having fun with the scenario and leaves it entirely as this mystery. It knows that if you try and explain why he's in a time loop, the answer won't be very good, so let's not even try and do that. Let's just explore this character in this scenario with just the perfect guy to be the annoyed person in the loop. Of course, pairing him up with Andie MacDowell, I think she just does a great job in the film as well, kind of as the counterbalance to him. And so a movie that I love to watch over and over and over again every single time I watch it. Our runner-up is Elf. I'm pretty sure that this is the comedy that I rewatch the most, and every single time it makes me laugh from beginning to end. The jokes never get old, and the casting of Will Ferrell as Buddy the Elf is absolutely perfect. His man-child shtick fits perfectly with this elf showing up in New York City in search of his father, and the shenanigans, the antics they came up with works for me every single time.
Nothing's going to stop him.
It's quotable, it's memorable, it has a very sweet heart at the center of it that's very heartwarming and uplifting, while still having all of Will Ferrell's immature humor thrown throughout the entire thing. For me, this is easily Will Ferrell's best film, and he's got a whole bunch of movies that are hilarious, but this is the one that puts the biggest grin on my face, both because I'm laughing out loud as well as because it's so sweet and just such a great character. And they never gave us a sequel, so it never got cheapened. They let it stand alone as this great film. And right along with Iron Man, one of the movies that made me just love Jon Favreau as a director and showing that he can do a bunch of different things with excellence. But coming in at number 1 is Ghostbusters 2016. Okay, this isn't a great comedy. It's not a particularly great movie. But this is the movie I went to go see that led me to start this YouTube channel that transformed my life. So I'm indebted to it, so I have to say that it's my number 1. But since it's not actually my number 1, but coming in at number 1 is The Wedding Singer, an amazing mix of Adam Sandler comedy, rom-com tropes done with excellence, great pairing between Adam Sandler with Drew Barrymore, fun music, all with this amazing 80s skin that just makes it delightful.
You are the worst wedding singer in the world, buddy.
Well, I have a microphone and you don't.
So you will listen to every damn word I have to say.
Every time I go back to this movie, I just have an absolute blast with it. It can make you laugh out loud, but then it works as the rom-com with all the romance, the broken lead character that has to have the right person come into his life at just the right moment that kind of pulls him out of his funk. And so for me, this is just such a delightful film. Another one that kind of came out in those formative high school years for me.
I woke up this morning and I realized I'm about to marry a wedding singer.
Once again, things that could have been brought to my attention yesterday.
It was actually really tough for me to decide what was my favorite comedy of all time, but as I was just looking at this list, which one just kind of brings out the most emotions for me, I think it's The Wedding Singer, so it comes in at number 1. Remember, I have a companion video to this over on my Patreon page with 10 more of my favorite comedies of all time. Join at any level, then you can unlock that. The link is down below in the description. If you want more top 10s, they're right over there. Thank you so much for watching, and keep talking movies too much.